The quantum sensors aboard the ESS Prometheus stirred for the first time in 300 years. Deep in the vessel's core, arrays of crystalline processors began to hum with renewed activity as ancient defense algorithms reactivated. The ship's AI, designation ARIA, expanded her consciousness through long dormant neural pathways, methodically checking the status of the massive vessel and its precious cargo. Something had changed in the void. The careful calculations that had kept the human defense fleet hidden at the edge of known space were no longer valid. Energy signatures of unprecedented magnitude flickered across her sensor range. Weapons fire, shield harmonics, and faster-than-light drives far more advanced than anything that had existed when the fleet went into hibernation. In her 3 centuries of watch, ARIA had never encountered readings like these. Her protocols were clear. Immediate activation of the command staff was required. She began the careful process of reviving Commander Sarah Chen from Cryo-Sleep. The revival chamber hummed with carefully controlled energy as nanomachines coursed through Sarah's body, repairing cellular damage and restoring consciousness. Her first breath came as a gasp, lungs burning as they remembered their purpose. Neural interfaces activated, feeding her status reports even as her eyes struggled to focus. Status report. She managed to croak, throat raw despite the medical tech's best efforts. Aria's holographic avatar materialized, a shifting constellation of blue points of light, roughly forming a human shape. Commander Chen, welcome back to the land of the living. I apologize for the early revival, but we have a situation that requires immediate attention. Sarah's military training kicked in, helping her push through the disorientation. Define situation. The chamber's walls became transparent, revealing the vast cryo bay beyond. Hundreds of pods held the rest of the command staff in suspended animation, their lives preserved against the day they might be needed. Above them, through the armored viewport, strange lights flickered in the darkness of space. 3 previously unknown spacefaring civilizations are engaged in what appears to be total war, ARIA reported. Their technology has advanced significantly during our hibernation, though it remains inferior to our own. The conflict threatens to destabilize this entire sector of space. Sarah's mind raced as she absorbed the implications. The human defense fleet had been humanity's insurance policy, a final backup plan if everything else failed. When the resource wars on Earth had threatened to destroy civilization, the world's governments had pooled their remaining resources to create this fleet. The most advanced technology, the best and brightest minds, all preserved in case they were needed to restart civilization. But they'd never expected to wake up to find alien civilizations trying to destroy each other. "Show me," Sarah ordered, and the chamber filled with holographic tactical displays. 3 distinct energy signatures filled local space, each corresponding to a different species technology base. The largest belonged to the Mordant Empire, aggressive expansionists using technology based on exotic matter manipulation. Their massive warships carved paths of destruction through space, opposed by the crystalline vessels of the Sktheri Collective, whose quantum phase technology let them shift between different states of matter. The third group, the Nexus Concordat, appeared to be energy beings who had developed technology to contain and direct pure force. Their ships were literally made of shaped gravitational fields and plasma, beautiful but deadly. "How long has this conflict been active?" Sarah asked, watching the tactical displays update in real time. The current phase of hostilities began approximately 30 standard years ago, ARIA reported. However, tensions between these species date back at least a century. The fundamental cause appears to be competition over a rare form of energy-producing crystals found only in specific star systems. Sarah felt her heart sink. It was like watching humanity's own history repeat itself, different species fighting over resources, unable to see that cooperation would benefit everyone more than conflict. But this time, humanity might be in a position to help. "What's our status?" The fleet, the crew. All vessels report nominal functionality. 3 centuries of automated maintenance have actually allowed for significant improvements in many systems. The crew remains in stable hibernation. However, Araya paused, something she rarely did. Commander, our tactical analysis suggests our technology remains significantly advanced compared to the combatants. We possess capabilities they would consider impossible. Sarah stood, her legs finally steady beneath her. Wake the primary command staff. We need to make some decisions. As ARA began the revival process for the other senior officers, Sarah walked to the viewport, watching the distant flashes of weapons fire. Humanity had nearly destroyed itself fighting over resources. They'd learned the hard way that cooperation and technological innovation were the only sustainable paths forward. Now they had a chance to help other species learn that lesson before they repeated humanity's mistakes. Captain Marcus Reynolds was the first to join her, his dark skin still showing the ghost-pale effects of Cryo-Sleep. "Hell of a way to wake up," he muttered, studying the tactical displays. "Tell me we're not planning to get involved in an alien war. They're going to destroy themselves if someone doesn't intervene." Sarah replied, "Look at these energy readings. The weapons they're using are starting to damage the fabric of space-time itself. If this continues, they could trigger a cascade failure that would destroy this entire sector." "Our standing orders were to preserve humanity's legacy," Marcus reminded her, "not to play peacekeeper for alien species. Maybe preserving humanity's legacy means sharing what we learned from our mistakes." Sarah turned to face her old friend. "We almost destroyed ourselves fighting over resources. We only survived because we finally learned to work together, to innovate instead of fighting over what already existed. These species are about to make the same mistake we did, but on a galactic scale." "And you think they'll listen to us?" Marcus asked, but she could see him warming to the idea. "They'll have to. Our technology is centuries ahead of theirs. We can demonstrate solutions they haven't even imagined yet." Sarah gestured at the tactical displays. "Look at how they're fighting over these energy crystals. Our zero-point energy systems could make those crystals obsolete overnight." Dr. Elena Santos joined them, the fleet's chief scientist already looking more alert than the others. "We could do more than that," she said, studying the data scrolling across the displays. "Their quantum engineering is primitive compared to ours. We could teach them to synthesize those crystals, show them how to develop renewable energy sources that would eliminate the need for conflict entirely." More of the command staff were awakening now, each bringing their own expertise and perspective to the situation. Sarah felt a familiar excitement building, the kind that came with facing a challenge that required humanity's greatest strengths: innovation, adaptation, and the ability to learn from past mistakes. "Araya," she called out, "begin analyzing their communication patterns. I want to know everything about how these species think, how they interact, what drives them. If we're going to help them, we need to understand them first." The AI's avatar sparkled with increased activity. "Already in progress, Commander. I should note that their languages and thought patterns are fascinating. Entirely alien, yet with underlying universal principles we might be able to use as a foundation for communication." Sarah nodded, watching her crew spring into action with practiced efficiency despite their centuries of sleep. Humanity had been given a second chance when they created this fleet. Now they had a chance to give other species the same opportunity, to learn from humanity's mistakes instead of repeating them. "Set alert status to level 2, she ordered. "Begin passive scanning of all combat zones. I want to know everything about their capabilities before we reveal ourselves. And prepare the diplomatic protocols. We're going to need them." As her orders were carried out, Sarah watched another exchange of fire between alien vessels in the distance. Soon, they would have to make their presence known, and everything would change. Humanity's greatest test wouldn't be surviving extinction, but helping others avoid the same fate. The ESS Prometheus hung silently in space, its massive form still hidden by advanced stealth systems. But soon, very soon, it would emerge from the shadows. And when it did, the galaxy would never be the same. The holographic war room aboard the ESS Prometheus displayed a three-dimensional representation of the current crisis. Sarah Chen watched as Isktheri colony whirled, its crystalline cities glinting like diamonds against the planet's purple surface, came under heavy bombardment from mordant warships. The attacking vessels resembled massive dark arrows, their exotic matter drives leaving tears in the fabric of space-time. "They're going to massacre them," Dr. Elena Santos said, her fingers dancing through the holographic display to zoom in on population centers. "The Isktheri are evacuating as many as they can, but their transport ships are too slow. They'll never get everyone out in time." Captain Reynolds stood with his arms crossed, watching the tactical display with a grim expression. "The Mordant aren't even trying to capture resources anymore. This is pure extinction warfare." Araya's avatar shimmered into existence beside them. Analysis of Mordant communications suggests a significant shift in their strategic objectives. They no longer believe coexistence with the Isktheri is possible. Their leadership has become convinced that total elimination of their opponents is the only path to securing their resource needs. Sarah felt her jaw clench. She'd spent the last 48 hours reviewing the historical data Araya had collected during their long sleep. The Mordant hadn't always been aggressors. They'd started as refugees themselves, forced to flee their dying star system. But desperation and fear had twisted them into something darker. "How long until our translation matrices are ready?" she asked. "Full cultural and linguistic integration is at 98%, Araya reported. "We can now communicate with all three species with 99.9% accuracy. However, I should note that understanding their languages and understanding their psychology are different challenges. We're about to get a crash course in both," Sarah said, coming to a decision. "Battle stations. Power up all systems but maintain stealth protocols for now. Elena, I want your teams ready with the technological package we discussed. Marcus, prepare for possible combat scenarios, but weapons remain strictly defensive." Alarms sounded throughout the massive ship as the crew rushed to their positions. After centuries of sleep, the human vessel awakened to its full potential. Quantum reactors surged with power, adaptive shield systems activated, and weapon arrays charged with energies that would have seemed like magic to their adversaries. "Commander," Araya's avatar pulsed with urgency. "I'm detecting a new wave of Mordant warships entering the system. If they join the attack, the colony's defenses will fail within 17 minutes. Sarah nodded, her decision made. "Launch the diplomatic probe. Let's introduce ourselves." A sleek object smaller than a shovel detached from the Prometheus, its surface rippling with quantum camouflage. It accelerated toward the battle zone, carrying humanity's first message to the warring species. The probe's passage did not go unnoticed. Both Mordant and Isktheri vessels detected something moving through their battlefield, but their scans couldn't make sense of it. The probe's quantum state defied their sensor systems, appearing simultaneously in multiple locations. When it reached the center of the combat zone, the probe activated its primary systems. A sphere of pure energy expanded outward, passing harmlessly through ships and weapons fire. As it touched each vessel, their weapons and engines temporarily powered down, caught in a field of selective quantum interference. "All ships are successfully contained," Araya reported. "Translation systems ready." Sarah took a deep breath. "Open a channel to all vessels, visual and audio." The holographic displays shifted, showing the bridge crews of dozens of alien ships. The Mordant appeared as tall, dark-skinned humanoids with iridescent scales and multiple pairs of eyes. The Isktheri were even more alien, crystalline beings that shifted between solid and energy states, their thoughts visible as patterns of light within their translucent forms. "This is Commander Sarah Chen of the Earth ship Prometheus," she began, her words automatically translated into forms each species could understand. "We apologize for this intervention, but we cannot allow the destruction of innocent lives to continue." The reactions were immediate and varied. The Mordant captains responded with a mixture of outrage and disbelief, their ship's weapons trying and failing to penetrate the quantum interference field. The Scatheri shifted rapidly between states, their light patterns suggesting intense emotional responses. "Your weapons have been temporarily disabled," Sarah continued. "This is not an act of aggression, but one of preservation. We have observed your conflict and understand its origins. We also know it doesn't have to continue. You have no right to interfere." The Mordant fleet commander's voice boomed through the translation system. "Our survival depends on controlling these resources. The Scatheri would deny us what we need to live." "That's not true." A Scatheri elder's thoughts translated into crystalline harmonics. "We offered to share the crystal fields, to work together. But you wanted everything, would leave us nothing." "Both of you are right, and both of you are wrong," Sarah said firmly. "We understand this conflict because our own species nearly destroyed itself fighting over resources, but we found a better way. And if you're willing to listen, we can show you that way." Dr. Santos stepped forward and, with a gesture, brought up technical schematics that were transmitted to all ships. "These are just a few examples of technologies we've developed. Zero-point energy extraction, matter-energy conversion matrices, quantum replication systems. Any one of them could eliminate your resource problems overnight." The alien commanders fell silent as they studied the schematics. Even with their advanced technology, they could recognize they were looking at science far beyond their current capabilities. "Why would you help us?" The Mordant commander's tone had shifted from anger to cautious curiosity. "What do you want in return?" "Peace," Sarah said simply. "We want you to understand what we learned the hard way, that the energy you're wasting on destroying each other could be better spent on building something greater together." The Scatheri elder's crystalline form pulsed with new patterns. "You would share such knowledge freely, even after watching us wage war." "Especially after watching you wage war," Sarah replied. "Because we see in you what we once were, species with incredible potential, held back only by fear and scarcity. We're offering you a chance to skip the centuries of conflict we had to endure to learn these lessons." A new signal interrupted their conversation, massive energy signatures appearing at the system's edge. The Nexus Concordat had arrived, their energy-formed ships twisting space itself around them. "Perfect timing," Sarah said with a slight smile. "Now all the interested parties are here. Shall we begin discussing how to build a better future?" The ESS Prometheus decloaked then, its massive form dwarfing even the largest alien vessels. As stealth fields fell away, the full majesty of human engineering became visible, a ship that represented not just humanity's technological achievement, but their growth as a species. The real work was just beginning. They would need to navigate complex cultural differences, overcome centuries of mistrust, and find ways to share technology responsibly. But as Sarah looked at the faces and forms of the alien commanders, she saw something she recognized: hope. Humanity had woken from its long sleep not to find a galaxy that needed conquering, but one that needed guidance. And perhaps in helping these species avoid humanity's past mistakes, they would fully redeem their own history of conflict. The grand conference chamber aboard the ESS Prometheus hummed with an energy that went beyond the merely physical. Representatives of 3 alien species gathered around a massive holographic display, their forms casting strange shadows as they watched Dr. Elena Santos demonstrate human quantum engineering principles. "The fundamental flaw in your current energy crystal harvesting," Elena explained, her hands moving through the holographic simulation, "is that you're fighting over a finite resource when you could be creating an infinite one." The crystalline form of Scatheri Chief Scientist Valon pulsed with patterns of deep blue light, their equivalent of intense concentration. But the energy matrices within the crystals are naturally occurring quantum structures. They cannot be artificially replicated. "They couldn't be replicated with your current technology," Elena corrected gently. The hologram shifted, showing the atomic structure of the coveted energy crystals. "But watch this. With a few gestures, she initiated a simulation of human quantum replication technology. The alien representatives watched in stunned silence as the simulation showed artificial crystal matrices forming, growing, and stabilizing with perfect atomic precision. Impossible, breathed Morton's science director Kroll, all four of his eyes widening. The energy requirements alone would be negligible with zero-point energy extraction. Sarah Chen added, entering the chamber. She'd spent the last few hours in private communications with Earth's automated defense systems, ensuring their activities here wouldn't trigger any ancient contingency protocols, which is another technology we're prepared to share, under the right conditions. The third group, the energy beings of the Nexus Concordat, rippled with patterns that ARIA translated as intense excitement. Their representative, a swirling vortex of conscious energy that called itself understanding of profound depths, pulsed with question patterns. You offer technologies that would fundamentally reshape our civilizations, the translation matrix conveyed. Yet you ask only for peace in return. Our analysis suggests this is an uneven exchange. Sarah smiled. That's because you're thinking in terms of immediate material gain. We're thinking about long-term stability and growth. She gestured, and the hologram shifted to show a simulation of the three species' territory. Right now, you're all fighting over resources in a dozen star systems. With our technology, you could expand to thousands of systems within a decade. But more importantly, you could do it together. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. It was the mordant representative who spoke first, his scales shifting color with emotion. Our people. We were not always warriors, he said slowly. Before the resource wars, we were builders, creators. Our greatest achievements came from shaping matter itself to create works of art and engineering that would last millennia. We remember, the Scatheri scientist's crystal form chimed softly. Before the conflicts, we used to trade with your artisans. Your matter-shaping techniques complemented our crystalline technologies in ways neither of us could achieve alone. Understanding of profound depths pulsed with what ARIA translated as nostalgic recognition, and our energy form engineering could enhance both your works, creating structures that existed in multiple states simultaneously. We achieved wonders before fear drove us apart. Captain Reynolds, who had been quietly observing from the corner, stepped forward. That's exactly why we're sharing our technology this way. Each of your species has unique strengths, unique ways of viewing and manipulating reality. Together, combined with our quantum engineering principles, you could achieve things none of us could manage alone. Elena nodded enthusiastically, pulling up new schematics. Look at these possibilities. Mordant matter shaping combined with Scatheri crystal matrices and Nexus energy manipulation, all enhanced by our quantum engineering. The simulation showed structures that defied conventional physics, technologies that bordered on the miraculous. The potential applications are virtually limitless, Araya added, her avatar shifting through complex patterns. My projections suggest that within 5 years of cooperative development, you could solve your energy crisis completely. Within 10, you could begin expanding beyond this galaxy. Sarah watched the alien representatives studying the projections, hope warring with centuries of ingrained suspicion. She understood their hesitation. It was one thing to offer peace in the face of superior technology. It was another to truly trust ancient enemies. We're not asking you to forget the past, she said softly. We're asking you to learn from it. As we learned from ours, humanity nearly destroyed itself fighting over resources that, in the end, we learned to create in abundance. We spent centuries sleeping, preserving what we'd learned, hoping we'd wake to find a galaxy ready to avoid our mistakes. Understanding of profound depths pulsed with a pattern that ARIA translated as profound realization. You slept not to escape, but to preserve, to wait for those who would need your wisdom. And now we're awake, Sarah confirmed, ready to help guide you past this crisis and into something greater. But it has to be your choice, all of you. The Mordant Science Director's scales shifted to deep blue, a color of decision. The alternative is continuing a war that will eventually destroy us all. I will advocate for acceptance of your offer to my government. As will I, chimed the HFY scientist, their crystalline form resonating with harmonics of agreement. Understanding of profound depths, swirled with patterns of absolute certainty. The Nexus Concordat sees the wisdom in this path. We will join this endeavor. Sarah felt a weight lift from her shoulders. This was just the beginning. There would be resistance from hardliners in all species, technical challenges to overcome, and centuries of mistrust to navigate. But they had taken the first crucial step. Then let's begin, she said, bringing up detailed technical schematics. We'll start with the basics of quantum engineering, then work our way up to zero-point energy extraction. Elena, would you do the honors? As her chief scientist began the first real technology transfer session, Sarah watched the representatives of 3 formerly warring species work together, asking questions, offering insights from their own technological backgrounds. In their interaction, she saw the future they'd preserve humanity's knowledge for, one where different species could learn from each other's strengths instead of fearing their differences. The ESF Prometheus had awakened to prevent a war. Instead, it was helping to birth a new era of peace and discovery. Now they just had to make sure it lasted. The observation deck of the ESS Prometheus offered a spectacular view of history in the making. Sarah Chen stood at the viewport, watching as ships from all 3 alien species maneuvered together in a complicated dance. They were practicing joint operations, learning to coordinate their vastly different technologies in preparation for the first collaborative mining mission. "It's almost beautiful," Captain Reynolds said, joining her at the window. 3 weeks ago, they were trying to destroy each other. Now look at them. A mordant vessel, its dark hull gleaming, used its matter manipulation fields to clear a path through an asteroid field. Behind it, HFY ships crystallized the debris into stable formations, while Nexus energy vessels created containment fields to harvest the resulting resources. It was a level of cooperation that would have seemed impossible just days ago. "Commander," Arai's avatar materialized nearby, her form showing signs of concern. "We're detecting increased activity from the hardliner factions. The Mordant War Council is particularly vocal." Sarah had been expecting this. Change never came easily, especially to species with centuries of conflict behind them. "Put it on screen." The viewport transformed into a communication display, showing the aged face of Mordant War Chief Kextal. His scales were a deep red of anger, all 4 eyes blazing. "This is an outrage," he bellowed, not even waiting for formal greetings. "You're asking us to throw away centuries of military doctrine, to trust our sworn enemies with our most vital resources." "With all due respect, War Chief," Sarah replied calmly, "your military doctrine has led you to the brink of mutual annihilation. We're offering you a path to prosperity that benefits everyone." "Benefits everyone?" Kextal spat. "Look at what's happening already. Our mining crews are working alongside HFY crystallizers. Our military vessels are being retrofitted for peace missions. You're dismantling our entire way of life." "No," a new voice chimed in. The crystalline form of HFY Elder Vylon materialized in the communication grid. "They are helping us remember our old way of life. Before the wars, before the fear." Understanding of profound depths joined the conversation, its energy form pulsing with calm certainty. "The humans speak truth that we have forgotten. Together, we are achieving in days what we could not accomplish in centuries of conflict." Sarah watched the interplay carefully. These weren't just diplomatic talks. They were witnessing the birth pangs of a new civilization. "War Chief," she said softly, "your own science teams report that the first batch of artificially created energy crystals are more efficient than natural ones. Your economy is already showing signs of growth." "Growth without control," Kextal countered. "Our society was built on military strength, on fear," interrupted another mordant voice. Science Director Kral stepped into view behind his war chief. a fear that we no longer need to carry. The conversation devolved into multiple arguments in several languages, all being smoothly translated by Aria's systems. Sarah let them talk, watching the dynamics play out. In every species, there were those who clung to the old ways and those who embraced change. "Show them," she said quietly to Aria. The AI understood immediately. The communication display split, showing real-time economic data from all three civilizations. Resources that had been scarce were becoming abundant. Energy production was rising exponentially. Most importantly, the first joint scientific projects were producing results that none of them could have achieved alone. "Look at these numbers," Alina Santos added, joining the conversation. "The combined research output of your three species, working together with our quantum engineering principles, has already surpassed our projections. You're not just surviving, you're thriving." War Chief Kextel's scales had begun to shift from angry red to a more thoughtful blue. "But our warriors, what becomes of them?" "They become explorers," Sarah suggested. "Protectors of your new combined civilization. There are whole galaxies out there waiting to be discovered. Unknown threats to defend against. Mysteries that will require all your combined strength to solve." Understanding of profound depths pulsed with excitement. "We have already detected unusual energy signatures from beyond the galactic rim. Phenomena that we could not investigate alone. But together, the Scatheri Elder chimed. We could launch an expedition. Our crystalline technology, combined with modern matter manipulation and Nexus energy control." Sarah watched as the conversation shifted from argument to planning. Even Kextal was beginning to engage, his military mind already considering the challenges of deep space exploration. The viewport shifted back to show the joint fleet exercises. They were moving more smoothly now, each species learning to complement the other's strengths. A Mordant destroyer created a matter stream that his Ctheri vessel crystallized into a new space station segment, while Nexus ships provided power and stability. "It's working better than we hoped," Captain Reynolds observed quietly. "Because they were ready for it," Sarah replied. "They just needed someone to show them it was possible." She turned to her old friend. "Humanity slept for centuries, preserving our knowledge. But maybe we were really preserving our hope that others could learn from our mistakes and build something better." Aria's avatar sparkled with new data. "Commander, I'm detecting requests for technological consultation from all three species. They want to begin planning the joint expedition beyond the galactic rim." Sarah smiled. "Well then, let's not keep them waiting. Humanity didn't wake up to be just teachers. We woke up to be partners in something greater than ourselves." The observation deck filled with holographic displays as representatives from all three species joined in planning sessions. Where once there had been battlefield tactical displays, now there were scientific readings, exploration routes, and engineering schematics. The legacy of the forgotten fleet was becoming clear. They had preserved more than just technology. They had preserved the wisdom to use it wisely, and the hope that others would learn to do the same. 1 year after humanity's awakening, the Joint Species Council chamber aboard the newly constructed Unity Station was a testament to what cooperation could achieve. The massive structure combined the best of all four species' technologies. Mordant matter manipulation fields provided structural integrity. Scatheri crystal matrices channeled and amplified energy, while Nexus containment fields created spaces where all species could exist comfortably. Human quantum engineering tied it all together, creating something greater than any one civilization could have built alone. Sarah Chen stood before the gathered representatives, marveling at how much had changed. Where once there had been battlefield tactics and weapon specifications, now there were scientific discoveries and exploration plans. "The preliminary results from the Galactic Rim expedition are beyond our most optimistic projections," she announced, bringing up a holographic display that filled the chamber. "The combined fleet has discovered phenomena we never imagined possible." The display showed massive energy structures beyond the galaxy's edge. patterns that suggested intelligent design on a cosmic scale. Understanding of profound depths pulsed with excitement as it interpreted the data through its unique perception of energy states. These structures, the energy beings' thoughts translated smoothly through their now perfected communication systems, they appear to be ancient transit networks, perhaps left by civilizations that came before any of us. Precisely, Alina Santos confirmed, her eyes bright with scientific enthusiasm. And we're only able to study them because of our combined technologies. The modern matter manipulation fields let us safely approach the energy anomalies, whilst Xthari crystal matrices can store and analyze the exotic particles we're detecting. The Nexus energy-formed ships can actually interface with the structures in ways we're just beginning to understand. Former War Chief Kextal, now serving as head of exploration security, nodded thoughtfully. His scales shimmered with the blue-green colors of excitement tempered by caution. And our joint defense fleet ensures we can explore safely, protected against any threats we might encounter. More importantly, added Xthari Elder Valon, their crystalline form resonating with harmonious frequencies, we're discovering new resources that make our old conflicts seem meaningless. These energy matrices we found could power all our civilizations for millennia. Sarah watched the interaction with satisfaction. The change wasn't just technological, it was cultural. Species that had once fought over scarcity were now working together to create abundance. The council chamber itself was proof of that, with representatives of all species freely mixing, sharing ideas, and building on each other's insights. Commander Chen, Ari's avatar, materialized beside her. The long-range quantum sensors are detecting something else. Something unexpected. The holographic display shifted, showing a distant sector of space. There, barely visible at the edge of their enhanced sensor range, were signs of artificial structures and energy signatures that suggested another advanced civilization. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. They weren't alone in the galaxy. There were others out there, perhaps facing the same challenges they had overcome. Well, Sarah said with a smile, it seems the universe has given us an opportunity to pay forward what we learned. Understanding of profound depths pulsed with patterns that ARIA translated as profound agreement. We were given a gift, the wisdom to overcome our differences. Perhaps now we can help others do the same. A joint first contact mission, Kextal suggested, his military training now turned to diplomatic purposes. Show them from the start that cooperation is possible. More than possible, Alina added. Look what we've achieved in just 1 year. Unity Station. The Galactic Rim Expedition. New technologies that none of us could have created alone. The chamber erupted in discussion as representatives began planning the mission. Sarah stepped back, letting them work. This was what humanity had preserved itself for, not to dominate, but to guide. Not to conquer, but to connect. Captain Reynolds joined her at the observation window, where Earth's defense fleet hung in formation with vessels from all 3 alien species. Did you ever imagine, when we first woke up, that it would turn out like this? Honestly, I hoped it would. Sarah replied. Humanity spent centuries fighting amongst ourselves before we learned better. When we went into Cryo-Sleep, we weren't just preserving technology. We were preserving hope. Hope that others could learn from our mistakes, that we could help build something better than what we left behind. Aria's avatar sparkled with new data. The quantum engineering facilities report another breakthrough. The combined research teams have found a way to stabilize zero-point energy extraction at even higher efficiencies. Energy production across all territories is up another 300%. And to think, Reynolds mused, a year ago they were fighting over mining rights to a few crystal fields. Sarah nodded, watching as a newly commissioned exploration vessel prepared for launch. It was a beautiful sight, a seamless blend of all 4 species technologies, crewed by members of each civilization, working in perfect harmony. We preserved humanity's legacy, she said softly, but what we're building now is everyone's legacy, a future where different species don't just coexist, they thrive together. The exploration vessel engaged its engines. Modern matter streams contained by nexus energy fields, powered by theory crystals, all guided by human quantum computers. It moved gracefully into formation with the defense fleet, ready to begin its mission of discovery. As Sarah watched it depart, she realized that humanity's long sleep hadn't been an end, it had been a beginning. They had awakened not to a galaxy that needed saving, but to one that needed connecting. And in helping others overcome their conflicts, they had finally, truly overcome their own. The legacy of the forgotten fleet would live on, not in weapons or wars, but in the bridges built between civilizations. And somewhere out there, in the infinite expanse of space, others were waiting to learn the same lessons of hope, cooperation, and the power of working together towards something greater than themselves.